All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors to order. I will note that the board did meet in executive session at 6 p.m. this evening, where we discussed the FOP police contract, as well as two litigation matters, one related to an enforcement matter, or two related to enforcement matters that are being handled in the district court. With that being said, Mr. Neese, please call the roll.
Altieri.
Here.
Ms. Roberts Lightcap.
Here.
Mr. Russo.
Here.
Ms. Chandless. Is not here yet. She's still working to get in. Mr. San Francesco.
Here.
Your manager, solicitor, and engineer are here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neeson. I will note, I announced this to the individuals that are here in the meeting room, but for those listening online, we apologize for the tardiness of getting this meeting started, but we did have some technical difficulties in getting this meeting broadcast onto YouTube. With that, we will move now into the moment of silence. And we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, section 5, agenda 5.1. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francesco. Is there any board comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 6, public comment for agenda items only. If there's any members of the public who have anything that they wish to say with regards to an agenda item, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Let the record reflect that there is no public comment. Section 7, minutes, 7.1. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th, 2024 meeting? There's a second.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francesco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 8, resolutions of recognition, 8.1. Consider approving resolution 2024-17, recognizing Dunwoody Village for 100 years of care at Dunwoody Home and 50 years at Dunwoody Village as a continuing care retirement community. Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
I'd like to propose resolution number 2024-17, recognizing Dunwoody Village for 100 years of caring as Dunwoody Home and 50 years as Dunwoody Village as a continuing care retirement community. Whereas Newtown Township recognizes and honors Dunwoody Village for 100 years of caring for older adults and establishing Dunwoody Village in 1974 as one of the area's first continuing care retirement communities. And whereas William Hood Dunwoody learned an appreciation for all mankind and founded a home for older adults on his property. And whereas in the early days, Dunwoody was home to just 50 residents and today totals 400 residents. And whereas Dunwoody Village is among the top skilled nursing facilities in the United States and has been recognized as short-term rehab and long-term care for 2024 by U.S. News and World Report. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township would like to recognize and honor Dunwoody Village on the anniversary of their 100 years of caring and for their 50 years of excellence in providing continuing care to our residents who desire a comprehensive approach to health and wellness, a sense of belonging and the highest quality of life, adopted this 9th day of September 2024. And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francesco. Is there any board comment? The only thing I'll note is that this will be presented to Dunwoody Village by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap and I, and the other supervisors who are attending on September 19th at their celebration gala. All those in favor?
I would make note for the record that Ms. Chandless is online by phone, and she did hear the motion.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Supervisor Chanlis.
Kathy?
Can you hear me? I said aye.
Yeah, okay. She said
Motion
aye.
carries 5-0.
It's Kathy. I just sent a new link for you.
Okay, good.
All right, section 9, presentations, Eagle Scout project presentation by Christopher Stasen.
First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Chris Stassen. I'm a current member of Boy Scout Troop 315 out of St. Anastasia Parish. I would like to thank the board for hearing me out tonight on my possible Eagle Scout proposal for Brookside Park. So the idea for the project is going to be a shade pergola located at Brookside alongside the playground to cover one of the benches. The goal of the project. Next, thank you. The goal of the project is to provide an area where parents or children may rest in the shade at Brookside Park's playground. As one of the issues there is, although there are trees around the park, none of them provide ample shade throughout the day over the playground area as seen by this sky view photograph. The red box on the screen indicates the bench in which we intend to build the pergola over. The finished product, the final product would be a pergola installed above one of the benches as indicated next to the playground. And then the dimensions and rough idea are on the following slide. Thank you. The pergola would measure about 12 feet long and 4 feet in depth. It would be supported by 4 main posts, which would be concrete in the ground using decking brackets to hold it in place. Thus, if weather damage is done to it and can be replaced and is not just left there to rot. The height of the cross beam as depicted over the man's head. It's about I believe it is a 7-foot clearance to him. That cross beam. 6 feet, 2.5 inches, my mistake. We refined this last night, so I'm still used to the numbers. My apologies. The pergola will easily fit the bench that is already existing in the park and will have roughly either an additional 2 feet on each side, or if the board would like, we can move it for that the bench is closer to one side to provide about 4 feet clearance for anyone who is handicapped or possibly in a wheelchair, or just for more gradual space for any family items or anything else that like to be stored under the pergola. Thank you for hearing me today, and are there any questions from the board?
First off, great presentation. Good job.
Thank you.
And good luck. I guess because there was one question for us, I would think that, just speaking for myself, we would want to design it to make sure that we have that 4 feet on the side to accommodate anyone with a wheelchair. I think it's probably what the board would probably think on that one. So that kind of gives you a little direction on that. Mr. Sharretts, any questions, concerns from operations perspective?
No, Chris had brought the project to us, so we had reviewed it with him. We talked about it with Parks and Recreation to make sure they were comfortable with it, and they were favorable to it as well. We would make sure that the final design is approved by Andy Redcheck, the code director, just to make sure that everything is to his satisfaction. And then other than that, we're great.
Yeah, Chris will get a first-time lesson in stop work orders. Andy likes to give those out. He'll be exposed to that. Mr. Pollock, Chair of the Parks and Rec Committee, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to add to this?
No, our committee is excited about it because we've had an interest in providing shade at that park for a long time. So this really answers the question for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pollock.
I would make note, I believe this will probably require a permit, and we'll go, just so the public knows, because it's on township property, we'll go all through all the process and still have proper permits for.
Got it. At no expense to, I'm guessing the Boy Scouts, correct?
No expense, we'll cover it
Perfect.
unless you tell me otherwise.
No, it's all right. So 2 things. One, again, great job with the presentation. Bonus points for coming here with a Don Johnson shirt. That's a very smart move. The second thing I would like to say is, the supervisors always like to be involved in these things. So when you finally get the date selected, let us know what it is. So we can come out and, assist as much as we can. Supervisor San Francisco is a tech guy, so his hands are kind of soft. He doesn't know how to use the shovel much, but we'll give him a shovel and see how that goes. But I think this is great, and I wish you all the luck. It's just one, and I know Supervisor Roberts Lakehap has some history with Boy Scouts in that park, with her son as well, with his Eagle Scout project. So I think you have a unanimous approval here tonight, Chris. So good luck with everything, all right?
Alrighty, thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
All right, section 10, appointment to boards and commissions. Can I, 10.1, get a motion to accept the resignation?
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt for just a moment. Ms. Chanlis is now online through the Zoom. Can I just, Kathy, can you confirm for me that you can hear? And I noticed that you're muted, and I just want to make sure we can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, thank you. That's what I need.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. 10.1, can I get a motion accepting the resignation of Alex Skoukas from the Finance Committee?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board comment? Just want to say thank you for your service, Alex. All's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 11, reports. 11.1, report from the Police Department. Chief Lund is not here to supplement anything to his report. 11.2, report from the Fire Department. Chief Young is not here to supplement anything from his report. 11.3, report from the Public Works Director. Mr. Sharrett, anything to supplement? Thank you very much. 11.4, report from the Code Enforcement Officer. I don't know if Mr. Rezchek is online or not.
I am, nothing to read, nothing else to add.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rezchek. 11.5, report from the Finance Director. There's nothing to supplement to that report. 11.6, report from the Township Engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Just in addition to my report, I'll just kind of highlight a few of the capital projects, some status. On a broader end, the public improvements along Route 3 from the Equus Development, the Phase 3, which is between 252 and Brynmore Avenue, is closing in on the final end. They'll be doing the last major work and then milling and paving over the course of the next 2 weeks ahead of that project finally coming towards conclusion. St. Albans Circle, which is right there. All the islands are in. The road restoration was nearly completed today. And the contractor will be wrapping it up with the stamped asphalt and final work over the course of the next 2 weeks. Rear Park, about a week or so ago, we had a meeting with the park's members of the Parks Master Plan Steering Committee members, and now integrating some of the feedback from that plan ahead of a meeting that will be scheduled with local residents in the coming weeks for the project to give a presentation to them. And then as far as some of the stormwater projects, we have the Martin Road, Hansel Road, Valley Forge Road project should be getting under construction in about the next 2 weeks. And we're currently working with township staff on some improvements for St. Albans Circle, which will have a further agenda item later tonight.
Let me answer your question on Paper Mill Road. I know that that is a county bridge and a county project and not one that we have much control over. Where are they with regards to that project? Like how much more work do they have left?
So they, as of the meeting we sat in last week, they are working towards the completion. I know the contractor and their engineer are having some back and forth about some final concrete items, but they are starting to have a discussion about the final paving and removing of the temporary bridge at this point.
Perfect. All right. Any questions for the township engineer?
Well, I have a question for Mr. Neese. Are we having Giovanna from Stan Tech review the sidewalk issues before the next release of bonding money? Is that strictly, did we ever get the conclusion? Is that strictly a cosmetic issue from the salt that they put down, or the
I assume you're
sidewalks?
talking about it at the
Sidewalks over
Lister
Lister, yeah.
project. My understanding that is still being reviewed. I have not heard anything. I was not able to join the last meeting
Okay,
that they had. But I know that's still under review, and I've not been given an answer one way or another on that.
okay, thank you.
I'm still waiting to hear about the core samples that were done.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the township engineer? Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Report from the township manager, Mr. Neese.
Yes, on a real very positive note, our EAC entered the 2 rain gardens that they did. It's just a reminder, we have a rain garden right out here at the front of the township building and one up at the Little League field, now Little League field at the going up the hill. And they won first place for community garden category for the 24 garden contest of the Penn State Extension Master Gardeners of Delaware County. And so we're very happy about that. And that award will be presented at noon on Saturday, the 28th at the Master Gardeners Fall Fest at Smedley Park. So I'll get that information out to the board so that you know if you want to go and be a part of that. I believe everything else will be covered throughout the rest of the agenda. And I would leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. I will say that that was a good email to receive on a Friday from, I think Desiree forwarded it off from Cindy Mahalo. So congratulations to the EAC and Cindy, who was really, the one who spearheaded that. It's great. Section 12 bills. I'm sorry, is there any questions for the township manager?
No.
Nope. Section 12 bills, 12.1. Can I get a motion ratifying the bills on EFT Register A dated August 20th, 2024, totaling $1,266.02?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.2, can I get a motion ratifying the bills on EFT Register B dated August 20th, 2024, totaling $24,416.55?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. 12.3, can I get a motion approving the bills on check register A dated September 9th, 2024, totaling $282,829.80?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 12.4, can I get a motion approving the bills on check register B dated September 9th, 2024, totaling $250?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Section 13, developer release, 13.1. Can I get a motion approving escrow release number 5 for Pollock Homes LLC relative to the Stony Knoll development, totaling $228,628.07, leaving a balance of $910,541.15.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion?
Yes, Mr. Neese, they're supposedly coming back in the near future. And we want to discuss that walkway,
Yes,
the reservation, and then the walkway that was done so far is very, I don't want to say it, very, very, very poor quality. It was put in from their road down to the, is it Hunter's Run down there? Or
to,
not Hunter's Run, what's
Hunt Valley.
Hunt Club Road, yeah.
Hunt Club.
It is not, I don't know, if you looked at it, Mr. Johnson, it looks pretty shoddy to me. And we want to talk to him about the portion going to the, I guess that would be northeast.
I believe we're having a meeting with them this week,
Yeah, planned later this week. Yeah.
later this week, to discuss next steps with them. And so that'll be a part of what they're doing,
Okay, thank you.
coming in.
Are you fine with releasing the escrow?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just want to make sure we don't miss these this opportunity to discuss with them, since it is a different owner from when he came through the approval process.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Section 14, new business. 14.1, can I get a motion to authorize the staff to engage the township engineer and township solicitor to take the required steps to secure the necessary easements for stormwater project in the upper St. Albans area?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. We'll now move to discussion. Mr. Neese.
Yeah, so as you know, we've had a variety of projects that we've been looking at for stormwater. One of those projects that we've been looking at, we've recently been brought to our attention that a sinkhole is being created in the yard of one of the individuals. We're not 100% sure that it's related to our pipe, but we think we know what's happening, and it may be related to a underground stream issue. But there is some possibility that our pipe is involved, and we know that we needed to look at this area anyhow. And so we've moved it up, or we're proposing to move it up on the project list, get in there, upsize the pipe. The project would change the direction of the current pipe, which goes down through a yard and makes a 90-degree angle and goes across the back of, I think it's 3 or 4 more yards before it comes out into Cayley. So this project would take that pipe and take it down to Lewis from Horton. We would keep the pipe that's in the ground there now that goes out to Cayley as almost like a in-ground basin that would hold water, and then increase the size of the pipe that's going through. I believe we're talking about 36 inches, a pipe that would go down out to Lewis, then down, and then potentially doing an underground storage bed out in Cayley to slow the pace of the water down that comes through there. And so in addition to that, we're looking between the Horton section and back up to the school section as well, to see if we need to take an increase potentially the size of the pipe in that area as well. So what I'm requesting is that we would have your support, and I can engage the engineer and their team to do the land surveys that we would need to do the easements, and then engage our solicitor to start drawing up the easement. I've actually already talked to one of the property owners. They've told us they would be glad to give us the easement because they see the benefit to them as well as to their neighbors. So if the board gives us permission, that's what we would like to move forward and do.
Is this part of Pinoni's contract, or is this a special, is this an outside of their contract time? The survey?
Yeah, this would be outside for both. It would be like any capital project that we do for
Do
both.
we have any idea of hours or time or cost?
Well, so I guess there's the survey related to acquisition of the easement, and then there's a survey that's related to the broader stormwater project that would be occurring. As far as the survey for the particular easement, it's only, that area is, I don't know, it's about 20-foot wide by about 150-foot long stretch down the side of his property. So I don't have the exact hours, but that's a relatively straightforward boundary survey that we would.
It's not $10,000 or,
Not,
your
not
time.
for acquiring the easement,
yeah,
no.
okay.
The broader stormwater project is a much larger, that's a couple $100,000 project, but the acquisition of the easement is a small
So
fraction.
this is the first part that we're approving today. Is the
Yeah, I just want to make sure we can get the easements. We're going to be using ARPA money to pay for most of
Okay.
this. I need to get the project let by the end of the year and
Mhm.
bid out and awarded by the end of the year. And so that's what we're trying to move forward on.
Okay.
Is this one where pipe was crushed?
This is one where the pipe, we believe there might be some root infiltration in a couple places, but not where the pipe is crushed. The pipe.
Well, is this the one where George has been looking at this thing for a while and you
No, this-
went all the way down? No?
No, I believe that's the one we're addressing on Hansel. And
Correct.
yeah, so that's the one that's already under contract. This
Okay.
is another one of our many on our list. This one will probably impact, the one on Hansel is relatively small in its impact of who it's impacting. This one potentially could have impact. I think we're talking about like
So it's,
60% of the neighborhood or something close
so
to
I
that?
would say the most immediate, the focus of what this project is if you're at Horton, there's kind of the mid-block in Horton, there's a low spot where there's inlets that are there. And those inlets are draining a huge swath of the neighborhood going all the way up through, and there's just not enough pipe capacity, so the pipe's full, it's bypassing the inlets and then flowing down the driveway and causing damage to those property owners, and then that water is then continuing into some other properties through their yards and causing ongoing issues. This pipe would increase the capacity to be able to capture that water that's currently flowing over these properties. At the same time, it looks like where the storm sewer was installed, which there was not enough in the neighborhood when it was built, it looks like this pipe was put in where there was a stream that was filled in at some point. So our understanding is it seems to be the stream is flowing on the outside of the pipe and is slowly through the joints in that pipe and washing in the soil. From there, causing the sinkholes in the back of the yard, compounded with the water that's then flowing over their
So
yard.
we're gonna increase the size and fix this whole
Correct.
scenario. Okay.
Yes.
And this has been on the surveys that were done, that
Yeah,
we
this-
did.
This was one of
the top, the
this
green,
was-
whatever that color coding was. it
Yeah, this
one
was
of the
probably
top
one of the
ones.
top 5 or 6 projects
Okay,
in there. But we think this fix will make a huge difference, if not eliminating the entire problem, at least making a very big difference in the neighborhood.
yeah,
Great.
because there's a lot of people that are affected by that, and
Yes.
it came to light when Culbertson
Yes.
did their expansions, and we got a lot of concerned citizens, residents that came out, and I don't live far from there, so I know exactly where those issues lie. So I just wanted to be sure everyone understood where this came from,
Yes,
and that this is the first step in it for the easements, correct?
correct. We need
Okay.
the easement, so we need to make sure we can get the easement so we can get the project planned.
Yep. And then, you guys will come back to us again for.
We'll
that
have a,
next
we'll have a
step.
bid document that would go out and an estimate of what the full cost of the project would be
Okay.
at that time.
Just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Any other questions for the township manager? Great. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. 14.2, can I get a motion approving the $250 full-page color ad in the Garrett Williamson Fall Festival program?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? I will note,
I think I have to recuse myself from this one.
yep, and I also will be recusing myself as well. I serve on their advisory board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0 with 2 abstentions. And Supervisor Chanlis and I will get to the administration our abstention letter tomorrow. 14.3, can I get a motion approving the manager's recommendation to terminate employee number 1025?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Oh, Tom, wouldn't you know? Yeah.
Still here, Tom.
Tom, I think you're 1026. You better watch it. You're getting close. 14.4. Can I get a motion to approve the advertisement for volunteers to fill the open finance committee position, which will expire December 31st, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 14.5, can I get a motion approving the advertisement for the open police administration position?
So moved.
Second. Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lycap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. 14.6, can I get a motion approving the updated 2024 fee schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese, can you just explain to the public what the changes that we're doing here on the fee schedule?
Yeah, the major change on this is that when we went out mid-year and added cameras, body cameras to the officers, there've been quite a few requests for the body camera footage. And in order to do that, we put it on a,
Go ahead, come on. What you
yeah,
said last time, floppy disk.
I wanted to call it floppy disk. But we put it on a thumb drive. Yeah, I know. But put it on a thumb drive. But what the real challenge is the amount of time that it takes to download it. And so the fees that are in there are to cover that cost. So that when people request that, and most of the time it's insurance companies and things like that. And so we think they ought to be paying for that when it's using the taxpayer dollar or taxpayers' time to do that.
So we'll prove this first and we'll have you do the resolution. So no further board discussion. All is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All is opposed. Motion carries. We'll now move down to 16.1. Consider approving resolution 2024-18, updated 2024 fee schedule. Supervisor San Francisco.
Resolution to approve township fee schedule, whereas from time to time, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania reviews and revises various fees for services provided by the township. Now therefore, in consideration of the above, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown does hereby resolve as follows. Number one, the Township of Newtown's comprehensive fee schedule attached to this resolution as Exhibit A is approved. Number two, the Township Administration is directed to make the fee schedule available to the public and charge fees for services consistent therewith. Resolved this day, 9th of September, 2024.
That's your motion, Supervisor San Francisco.
That is.
Is there a second? Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. 14.7, can I get a motion to authorize the following properties to be sent to both the county and township planning commissions for class 2 historic resource review and authorize the advertising of such? 6 Boot Road, 307 Earls Lane, 3523 Cayley Road, 4111 Goshen Road, 4727 Mill Hollow Road.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lycap, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? What I will note is these 5 properties, the applications have all been filed by the property owners. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic than what the other ones have been. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. All 5 of these have been filed by the property owner and supported by the property owner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. 14.8, can I get a motion approving the advertisement to go out to bid for the ramps at Hilltop Road and Radnor Drive using county aid / liquid fuels allocation?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese or Mr. Sharitz?
This is the project that you had kind of given us direction on when we said that we were going to use the county aid money to do crosswalks and ramps. This happens to be the location, which is at the Radnor Drive and Hilltop. So this is just going out to bid. The engineer's done the design. We're going out to bid to get the project done.
Perfect.
George, it's not gonna mess any up your paved roads over there, right?
It will not.
Good, thank you. They look great.
Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 14.9, can I get a motion approving the advertisement of the following ordinances? Number 1, well, let's just a little bit.
It's just the first 2.
Just the first 2.
We would have a discussion of the ordinances of, we would have it. The ordinances themselves are attached to the agenda down under the section called ordinances. It's kept that way for organizational purposes. When the administration goes back to look for when an ordinance was passed, you know, it's a lot easier to have it organized this way. So the action item here is approving the advertisement. The actual ordinance itself is down listed below under the ordinance section. And it's only the first two, the stormwater ordinance and the trailer parking ordinance.
Correct, that's what I was looking for here. So it is gonna be right now, right, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about trailer parking on township roads and stormwater, all right.
Right.
So it'll be a resolution ordinance number 2024-09 and ordinance number 2024-11. And no, 9 is the trailer parking on township roads. It was updated. So I'm not gonna say resolution numbers, because those are obviously not correct. So-
Ordinance number, right, yeah,
Well, so we're just gonna say for the stormwater and for the trailer parking and township roadways
as presented.
as, excuse me,
As presented on the.
as presented.
moved.
Well,
Well, let me ask you a question here. Now, so what do you mean as presented? Because Suzanne just said that those numbers are not correct.
yeah, but the ordinance itself is attached to the
Okay.
agenda.
There's no
Yeah.
numbers on.
Okay. What do you need us to do now?
So the idea is we'll just go over briefly what the stormwater ordinance is, what your choices are, and then tell us to advertise it. So the idea is 2022 update to the model ordinance pushed down by DEP through the county, through to the township. So there's a model ordinance out there that says this is what you should have in your township as the updated requirements for stormwater management. We took that model ordinance from the county. When I say we, I mean Eric and I, we went through and conformed it to just make sure it fits in our code the right way, added definitions as needed, filled in some things that just kind of are consistent with the way we do things now, that were not very substantive, and then left a few areas where we wanted to highlight for you and say, hey, this is the way our ordinance currently does things. And this is the way, these are the options that you have. And it was really down just to 3 specific areas. I'll do the one which was really easy. Our comprehensive plan had recommended that the riparian buffer, to protect that waterway be 100 feet. I think 75 is what we have now. We included 100-foot riparian buffer to make it consistent with our comprehensive plan. That was a recommendation from our EAC. They had requested that we updated the ordinance in that regard. And we said, well, we're going to be doing these updates in September anyway. So we put that in there.
And it was in the comp plan, correct?
That's
a recommendation.
what the comp plan. That's, yep, comprehensive plans recommended and was approved by the board recommending 100 feet. So that's what we put in here. Another thing is we left highlighted in here just for your attention to be drawn to it. So right now in our stormwater ordinance, and Eric is prepared to talk to you why we do it the way we do it, or at least we weren't there when they passed it, the current form necessarily, but why we do it now regarding what is impervious coverage with respect to swimming pools and decks in your yard, right? And so right now, the township does not consider either swimming pools or decks that get added to houses as impervious coverage. So it doesn't trigger all these stormwater management requirements. You have the option to do that. And so before we just decided for you that we'll just keep it the way it is, that's more of one of those substantive changes we talked about. We thought, well, we should put that in front of you and make sure you want to either keep it both the same way, meaning that they're not impervious coverage, or maybe you want to add one or both as being impervious coverage, or maybe make some criteria as to when it would or would not be. And Eric's here to answer questions in that regard. But right now, the current ordinance, swimming pools are not impervious coverage. They don't add to that stormwater management burden of a homeowner. And if you add a deck to your house, it does not add to that stormwater management burden because that's not impervious coverage.
Eric, you want to add anything to that? I mean, it kind of seems like it's all over the place, right? Some municipalities do, some municipalities
You're correct.
don't.
So, yes, you're right. From municipality to municipality, it's different. Your current stormwater ordinance very explicitly, the definition of impervious surface says the water surface of a pool is not considered impervious surface. So just as an example, let's say someone was coming in with an 800 square foot water surface of a pool, a 200 square foot deck around it. 200 square feet is what's counted when you're calculating stormwater management. As opposed to counting the water surface, and then that would be 1,000 square feet, which then throws you into a full engineered stormwater.
And when you're saying
project.
pool deck, you mean the concrete
The
around it,
concrete,
not
the
like
coping and the
yeah.
concrete around regardless counts. It's the surface of the water within
Got
the
it.
pool that your code currently explicitly states. It counts for zoning impervious coverage, but not stormwater management.
Understood.
And as far as the deck, that's one, you're right, different municipalities look at it different ways. Currently, if someone has a deck, it does not count, and the basis of that is usually a deck it has open where the water is then passing through to the ground underneath. So that currently is how the township stormwater and zoning ordinance has been looking at.
I think,
Impervious.
correct me if I'm wrong, I think the argument for why a swimming pool may be considered not impervious, because it's not going anywhere,
Yeah.
right? So it's,
like a retention basin.
it's sitting there, but right, it's acting as a retention basin essentially, where the water from the rainstorm is sitting there. Hey, it might evaporate, but at least it slows it down. The homeowner, if they're going to have to drain water off, isn't doing it typically during the rainstorm. It's going to be done at a separate time. So
Right.
I think that's an argument as to why people say, hey, don't treat this as impervious coverage. The argument for it being impervious coverage is that water's not infiltrating into the ground, it's just sitting there.
What's the board's desire on that?
And I think you understand the issue with the deck, right? And the question that we've had is, as new materials have come out, deck boarding is getting closer. Because on the composite deck boards do not need the same amount of expansion space. And so the question is there the same amount of water going through? So that's the only other thing that's the reason why the deck board question kind of comes up in that.
And not to the substantive issues, but just procedurally, we're not changing the ordinance tonight. This is just approving advertising, but you're deciding what are we going to advertise to the public. So
Yeah.
you might advertise with no change, and then after people review the ordinance, after it's advertised, they might come back when you go, we advertise this to pass it at the next meeting. And you might get a bunch of people to come in and say, well, it should be changed.
Yeah.
And you're not prohibited from changing it at that time. You just have to
We're
re-advertise.
just voting that what we're gonna advertise out there.
Correct.
I will say it was a little confusing on how this was written in the agenda, but I get what we're doing now. So my personal opinion would be that we continue to define a pool, that area is not impervious surface. And I would also say the decks should not be included in that either, because even to your point, Steve, with the composite boards, with the expansion, water is still seeping through them. It's not like it's pouring off. Yeah. No, I know.
I'm just telling you why I think the question is coming out.
Concrete patio.
Yeah.
Concrete patio stuff.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
deck,
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a definite. We have a definition of a deck as opposed to a brick or stone patio or concrete patio. Okay.
I'm not 100% sure we can find that if it's not.
So you could say, right now in the code, if impervious coverage, it defines specific things that are counted as impervious and explicitly makes a statement about pool. So we could make sure that's clarified. In regards to
Yep.
deck
The
as well.
definition of a deck.
And that's basically it. The last little thing is just there's a, well, I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you
No,
guys
that's
decide?
fine. Yeah. As long as we have a definition, because,
Yeah.
if someone comes in and makes an argument that,
Their patio is a deck. Right.
yeah, I think we need to have a definition.
I'll make sure that's defined and we'll get it out for advertising for the next meeting. The only other little piece
And
was just that.
I'm sorry to focus on this deck thing. If the decking is on the ground, it does not, it'll just run off the decking. So if it's an elevated deck, it slows it down because it'll go through the deck. Or am I making too much out of it? Eric, if, let's say someone puts a wood deck outside their back door and it's on the ground, it's at grade. Does that affect the Would that be impervious or pervious then?
You're basically just thinking of like a low, like a deck that's real low to the ground, like one step out, like you're one step off of the ground.
Yeah,
It's still elevated. Well, hence to your definition, but that is elevated off the ground as opposed to a patio, which is flush to the ground.
okay,
The deck still has to have some sort of structural member. that the
okay.
plank
I
is
think
sitting
then
on.
make sure that you have that in the definition, please. And then I'll stop. Thank
We
you.
don't have a specific definition. When something's not defined, you use the regular term for the word, but it's always
Yes.
better to have a definition, so we'll
I
do
mean,
that.
impervious surface under this thing does say pavements. And I would think a patio would be a pavement.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I think it is defined in the draft.
Right, deck is not defined, but exact, patio is defined.
And
Oh,
if
yeah,
you're,
that's right, that's what you were
if
saying.
you're
Yeah,
comfortable, we'll define deck and then we'll add to that, that underneath the deck can't be closed off.
Right, because
So
sometimes they put sometimes you see that there's concrete and then they put the decking to make it softer or whatever. So that's all. That's just my.
Understood.
We'll work on a definition.
Yeah, so if you guys
Yeah.
approve that, we'll get it advertised for the next
But
meeting.
I'm fine if you have a definition.
Perfect. So, all right, so that's stormwater and then trailer parking in township roads. Mr. Sikora.
Yeah, that's just something that you had asked some time ago. I guess there was a problem with trailers being parked on the roadway and just being left there unattached to anything, just by itself. And so this proposed ordinance simply just adds to our existing code that you can't do that. If you have a trailer on the street, it's got to be attached to a car. And then I went a little further just to address construction equipment, because that's a similar problem that happens, right? You get, a tractor or a road paver or a grader sitting out there.
Mhm.
And so you're not going to leave it on the street unless it's adjacent to a work site. And even then, it can only be for 14 days. And that stops, the people just kind of park it on the street with construction equipment, leaving it there and kind of lingering there.
All right. Any questions for the solicitor with that regard? All right, so let's just jump down to 17.2. Stormwater ordinance for an advertisement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lycap, seconded by Supervisor Russo to approve the stormwater ordinance for advertisement with the discussion points that we mentioned this evening. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. 17.3, trailer parking in township roadways for advertisement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It-
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sikora. Okay, 14.10, can I get a motion to approve the Westchester Pike median project at an estimated cost of $6,800?
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor, Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Mr. Neese.
I'd like to make clarification that this is actually the ground cover, and this is the design and plan. It is not the actual planting. So I just want to be clear. And that's for the new sections, the section going from Ellis Avenue down to Boot Road, and also from the St. Albans down to Bryn Mawr Avenue for the ground cover. You'll be looking at something different on the 1411, but this is just ground cover in addition to some trees that we're recommending.
Perfect. Any questions for Mr. Neese? Question I have for you is, because I didn't see it in the proposal, I know that the next motion, we're gonna be talking about the trees, and we're gonna be talking about going out to bid to get them ideally in for this fall planting. Do we also think that this ground coverage will be in for the fall planting at the same
I
time?
would hope to do both about the same time.
Got it.
That would be the goal.
Yes. When they took all those that landscaping out of the right of way as part of the widening, they didn't have an obligation to come back and put it in at their expense?
Their design was back with mostly just grass.
And that would have been approved by PennDOT.
That was approved by PennDOT.
We have to give PennDOT's approval to put the trees back?
Have to comply with PennDOT
PennDOT.
standards.
Yes.
All right,
The approval level is yet to be determined, but
okay.
we're going to comply with the standards no matter what.
Any other questions? Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 1411. Can I get a motion directing the staff to move forward with the tree planting on Westchester Pike, as well as authorize staff to request bids for the purchase and installation of these trees?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor Robert Lycap, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. We'll turn to board discussion and Mr. Neese.
Yeah, so after discussing this with several board members, I know that the desire was to see some trees out on Westchester Pike. George and I took a Friday afternoon or Friday morning and we walked basically most of Westchester Pike. And we counted that we could probably put in about 220 trees along Westchester Pike. We've involved the arborist to give us an estimate per tree and also to give us a list of trees. I believe he came up with about 15 trees, George, is that about right? His recommendation was to use about 5 to 6 of those trees, come up with a pattern, repeat the pattern within a median. And then when you go to the next median, create a new pattern with different trees, just to give some variety as you go down so that it's not all the same, but at the same time, it doesn't look like it's totally hodgepodge. And so we're working together with him on that, and him being the arborist, George is doing a lot with that. And he estimated that the cost per tree is roughly around $1,000, just to give you an idea. So we're looking at about a $220,000 to $250,000 for the trees. The big cost, to be honest with you, George and I talked, we think all the trees are going to probably have to be hand dug in the medians, just because of the utilities that are underneath. So, and on those narrow medians, which there are a number now that are more narrow, particularly in the center, we'll probably have to get like a flagger force, shut down a lane to make sure that it's safe for the workers. And so that piece we've yet to get pricing for. So that's what we're working on.
And to be clear, the tree planting we're talking about is not just the areas that have just been developed with regards to that PennDOT project in front of Ellis, but we're talking about going essentially from Media Line Road all the way down to around the Porsche dealership a little bit.
Yeah,
further than that, correct?
if you'll look, a lot of the trees that are on the section between Media Line down to Bryn Mawr Avenue are fairly old. They've been there a very long time and they're fairly large in size. Our idea was to go in and fill in the spaces between those now. And then over the next several years, start taking out some of those trees. Some of them are dying. We've looked at them. A couple of them, the trunks had big holes in them. So they're needing to be, their end of life is near. So we want to get the new trees in first, get them established. We'll make a plan so that we can repeat the pattern when we take those trees out and then come back in and do that in the next couple of years in that way. So that's that section. Obviously the new section, there's several in that area. And then if you get down past Boot Road, going down on the other side of Porsche, there's a whole section there that's just blank. And so I know we hadn't necessarily talked with anybody at the board specific about that area, but we said, if we're doing it, we should look at the whole picture and treat it as a whole palette. And so that's how we're looking at it.
And just so we're clear, I want to flesh something out because I don't want people to think that we're planting trees to purposely start removing some of the existing ones.
No.
We're only removing, if this occurs in the future, trees that are dead that the arborist
dying,
identify
yes.
as a safety issue. But we're not planting these and then turning around and taking down new ones. I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
taking down the old ones. I just want to make sure we're very clear on that for those that are in the room and then also those that are listening here. The whole goal here is to populate succession planning is a good way of doing it, but you know, it's just like when you get your will, you're not hoping the person dies the next day. You're just, you know, making sure that you're prepared for it.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Any other questions for Mr. Neese?
I would mention that obviously because of it being the price point that we think it is, we'll probably have to come back in to bid. And it may be that we will plant some trees this fall. We've been told that the oak trees, if they have to dig them, they don't typically dig oak trees in the fall. They don't only dig oak trees in the spring. Don't ask me why. They don't survive as well. That's what I can tell you. That's not my area of expertise. So those might not get planted till the spring if that's the case.
So I just want to be clear, or my own personal edification is, if that's the case, I think the board's desire is to plant as many as we can before the winter time.
That would be our goal.
I know that we're up to a tight crunch with regard to the bidding. So I don't want to see a bunch of oak trees on our list. If that's the case, I'd rather see us move forward with some other stuff. Because I think the board would agree, we want to see stuff. We don't.
No, the goal would be, if the oak trees are there, they'll be a part of the plan, but they won't be a predominant.
I just don't want to, I want to make sure that we have stuff in there for the fall. And then the second thing too is I want to know, based off of our ordinance, and then also I believe there was the
governor's
new state legislation.
Yep.
These will be native trees that
They,
we're working
that
through.
we've asked them to be native. We've asked the ground cover to be native.
Perfect. Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Neese, this is a township expenditure.
This is a township expenditure.
Are there any PennDOT grants or anything that we can look at for these trees, or because EAC has got, they've got these trees that are given away to, I know these are going to be bigger caliber than what are given away by Eco and things like that. Is it something we can look at?
We can look. I would tell you, if we're going to have it done this fall, it'll be more difficult because you usually can't get funding after you've done the
Right.
project. You have to have funding prior.
Okay. I think Paul's got his,
Oh,
Leonard Ken Paul.
We'll get you at the end, Paul, the regular public comment. Well, I apologize. I don't want to go out of order. Any other comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. 14.12, can I get a motion approving the Bartram Covered Bridge Masonry Project contract to Delaware Environmental Construction Services, Inc., who had the lowest responsible bid of $143,000. This award is subject to concurrence by the Board of Supervisors of Willistown Township.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Robert Sykap. Is there any board discussion? Do we know if Willistown approved this yet?
they are meeting tonight, so
Okay.
it's contingent upon their approval as well.
All right,
And I
perfect.
think that's why it's worded as it is.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move down into the public hearing, 15.1, map amendment change historic property. Sorry, Tom. 8:25, this hearing will be open on 15.1, map amendment change historic property, 3201 Westchester Pike. Note, there's an associated ordinance that's listed as item 17.1 below. I don't believe that we need to have Ms. Cavalier go through the whole presentation again. If you have some words that you want to, or anything that you want to say, you can.
I just wanted to,
Your name and title for the record, please.
pardon me,
Your name
Yes.
and title for the record, please,
Kathy Cavalier. I'm a member of the Historic Preservation Commission,
and address.
313 Oak Hill Lane.
Thank you very much. And still under, just like Tom just said, we're
Yes.
still going to consider you still under oath from the
Yes.
last two meetings.
And I know I presented twice, third time's a charm. If there were any questions, I know Tina wasn't here last time, but so I think everybody has heard the presentation on the criteria for the property to be listed. I just also wanted to go back to the legislative intent of our ordinance. Just to remind everybody on the first page under 93-1, the intent written in by our township is to discourage demolition of historic assets by delaying demolition to allow the Historic Commission to discuss alternatives with the owner, working with the owners to prevent demolition of an historic resource by neglect, working with the owner to seek alternatives to demolition, and establishing fair market value and assisting in finding a new owner who will agree to preserve the structure. And that is from our ordinance. Also, the criteria under the burden of proof 93-5. In the proceedings to either add, remove, or reclassify a property as an historic resource, the burden of proof shall be on the proponent, which is the commission, of such change to show that the property either meets or does not meet any one of the applicable criteria for the classification being proposed. And based upon the criteria set forth in this section, and after receiving the recommendations of the Historic Commission, the Board of Supervisors shall from time to time by ordinance add, delete, or reclassify buildings, structures, and sites to or from the historic resource inventory. And that is in case people aren't familiar with the ordinance, that is designated directives from our ordinance. If you haven't, are there any questions on the historic criteria or
Any
of this
questions from the board?
property or?
No.
No. Okay.
Ed?
Thanks.
All right, so we will, we'll keep this hearing open. We will go to 17.1. You fine with how I'm doing this? Good.
Right, you're going to look at.
We're gonna go we're actually gonna go, vote
Yeah,
now.
you could vote on the record.
You fine with that? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Score. 17.1, consider,
Yes, I don't know if you did, if anybody
you.
came to speak for or against.
yep, I haven't done one of these you would think third time I would get this down. Is there anyone from the public that is here that is speaking either in favor or against this map change? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Let the record reflect that there are no individuals who have come to speak in favor or against this map change. We will now move down to 17.1, which is to consider approving ordinance 2024-08, township map amendment to add 3201 Westchester Pike as a class 2 historic resource to the historic overlay zoning district. Is there a motion?
It's so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lycap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No. No.
Motion carries 3-2. And this hearing is closed at 8:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, we will now move down to board comment. Is there any board comment?
Yeah, what about Bishop Pollock?
That's right, we should do 16.2. 16.2, can I get a motion approving resolution 2024-19, multimodal transportation fund grant application for Bishop Hollow Road sidewalk, Supervisor Russo.
Be resolved, Township of Newtown,
Is his mic
Delaware
on?
County, of hereby request the Multimodal Transportation Fund MTF grant of $170,500 from the Commonwealth Finance Authority be used for installing sidewalk connections along Bishop Hollow Road. Be it further resolved, the applicant does hereby designate Leonard B. Altieri III Esquire, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and Stephen M. Neese, Township Manager, as the officials to execute all documents and agreements between the Township and the Commonwealth Financing Authority to facilitate and assist obtaining this request. My motion.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo. Is there a second?
Second.
Any board discussion? Mr. Neese, you just want to give an overview? on
Yeah,
it?
so you actually voted on a resolution like this, I think it was about 2 meetings ago. I think it was the end July meeting, but I'm not 100% sure. We put in for a grant to extend the sidewalk from Bishop Hollow, or from Stony Brook up to the Nell softball field, not the Nell softball, the Petticoat League. And so that was the sidewalk entrance or sidewalk addition we put in. At the time we did it, we were under the impression, based on the grant application, that there was a required township match. But we had heard through the rumor mill that they were waiving the match. So we had you pass the resolution with the match in it so that we would be covered. They've come back and given us permission to update the resolution, stating that we want 100% funding from the state on this. And so that's what this is about.
Do we have an anticipated start date?
It would not be until after it was awarded and then we went through the process. I'm not sure when the award is. It this fall or is it into the January? Yeah, we're not sure.
Oh, perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move down to section 18, board comment. Does any board members that have anything they'd like to add? I will note, and I apologize that I didn't do this in July and in August, that we have sitting with Ms. Valanen, Desiree Stevens, who started here June 24th, who is our new administrative assistant / office manager. So I want to thank you for coming to Newtown Township and for everything that you've been doing since June 24th. I apologize that I did not do that introduction sooner, but I know that there's individuals who have been seeing you at that table, and so I think it's important for them to know who you are. So welcome to the team. Now we'll move to section 19, public comment. If there's any members of the public who have anything that they'd like to provide, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Let the record reflect there is no public comment, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.